to VR Roundtable. My name is Anthony, and I used to host a podcast called the Vivecast, and I'm here with Gary. And basically, this is the VR Roundtable. In the future, we might actually have a third person, so that's kind of why we call it the Roundtable, because it might not just be me and Gary, but for now, it's me and Gary. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss a number of topics relating to the VR gaming industry and what's going on in VR, what the latest news is, what's going on with our personal situations with the HTC Vive. And then also this show, I did a show called the Vivecast, and there could be some Vivecast listeners that might be tuning in. And the Vivecast was really focused in on the HTC Vive, but I did cover some other stuff. This show is going to be a little bit more wide open. Me and Gary both have HTC Vive, so that's obviously going to be a huge part of our focus. But I might be getting a PlayStation VR at some point, so that's going to be interesting. So we're just going to take a look at all kinds of stuff, and it's going to be kind of wide open. And it's just going to be a personal conversation, kind of like a fireside chat. Me and Gary just talking about some VR topics. And Gary, anything to say real quick?
No, not really. Just good to speak to you, and we can get straight into the first topic if you're ready to go.
All right. Yeah, hopefully this episode will be quite a bit. The last episode was just a test episode. We really didn't know that we were going to go live with it. And so this is our first real episode. So we actually have an outline. We're going to have some specific topics to cover. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so the first topic I want to get into is, here's the thing. Okay, so as much positive stuff that is going on with the HTC Vive, there is a little bit of a negative thing that's also going on. And I have to talk about it because it actually happened to me personally. Back a couple of months ago, I'd be on Reddit, and I would see all these different posts about people having a nightmare experience with HTC support. And I would see these posts, and I never had any problems, so I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. And I would, just kind of ignore them, really. And I didn't know if it was just like a disgruntled, one disgruntled person or, what it was. Because a lot of times, if people have a good experience, they usually don't say anything about it. And then when people have a bad experience, they really talk about it. So it's kind of one of those things. So I didn't know if it was as big of a deal as everybody was making it out to be. So fast forward a number of months, and we're in like mid to late August. And I'm playing my Vive every single day, having a ton of fun. And I started to notice every once in a while, I'd be playing my Vive and everything would be fine. And then all of a sudden the screen would just go dark. And I'd be like, oh man, what the heck is going on? But then boom, it would come right back on and I would be playing the game again and everything would be fine. Everything's cool. But it started to happen a little bit more and a little bit more. It would go dark and then it would come back on, and I was thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know, this doesn't seem too good. Something might be a little screwy here, but, I just kind of stuck with it. And then so one day my son is over here and he's playing Racket NX and the demo for Racket NX, which, by the way, is incredible demo. I absolutely love that game. I don't think it gets anywhere near the kind of respect that game should get. But he was playing this demo, and he's like, Dad, the screen's dark. The screen's dark. And I was like, well, wait a minute, or just try to move your cable a little bit. It might come right back on. And he's like, no, the screen's dark. The screen's dark. And so at that point, so then I tried it, and I was like, oh, man, yeah, the screen is dark. And then it would work for a second, and I was actually playing Racket NX, and I'm playing it, and then it would go dark again. And I was like, oh, man, this is not good. And it was kind of late at night, so I decided, let's just shut this whole thing down. Let me shut my computer down. Let me turn off the Vive, and I'll try it again tomorrow, and hopefully it was just some weird glitch or something. It's not a big deal. So I tried it the next day, and unfortunately, my worst fears basically were realized, and I knew it was a problem with, well, I didn't know for sure that it was a problem with the 3-in-1 cable, but I kind of assumed that. And so then I started the process of working with HTC support. And the thing is, in the beginning, I went through it completely normal. I wasn't trying to be like a mean person to the support. Everything they said to me made a lot of sense. It was great help. They tried to diagnose the problem, and everything was pretty cool in the beginning. So I didn't really think too much of it. And then so finally what happened, it took a couple of days, but they finally got the RMA thing where I get an email and I get an RMA number, and I have to send my cable to HTC. So I wanted to send it, as soon as I possibly could. So I got one of those priority, mail things from the U.S. Postal Service, which is like 2-day priority shipping. And I put the cable in there, and I had my ticket number for the RMA on there, and I had it inside with the cable. And so I shipped it out the next morning. I actually had my wife do it. She shipped it out in the morning, and I followed the tracking, and HTC got it. This was on a Tuesday morning is when she shipped it out, and the HTC Repair Center got it on a Thursday. And so I'm thinking, okay, so the repair center is going to get my cable. It's going to take them maybe a day or two to test the cable out, verify that it's malfunctioning, and then they would start the process of sending me a replacement cable. So I knew this was right before, this was right around, I think it was like the week after Labor Day or something. I don't specifically remember what day this was, but the weekend was coming up, and so it's like, okay, I know I'm not going to get it back then. It's going to take maybe a week or so. So the next week, a couple of days are going by, and I haven't heard anything at all, like no email, like here's a tracking number, it's going to be shipped. Haven't heard anything. So at that point, that's when I started to get a little bit concerned. And I started wondering, okay, let me see what's going on here. So you go onto the website and you can enter your ticket number into this one little thing, and you enter your name and serial number and stuff, and it'll kind of show you what process of the situation your ticket is in. And so I did that, and when it popped up, it showed that they hadn't even received my cable. Like nothing at all had happened with the whole thing. And so at that point, I was like, oh, this is not too good. Let me see what's going on. So then I started dealing with the HTC support, the chat support. And at first, I tried to be really patient and calm about it, and just like, what's going on? I'm trying to find out about my 3-in-1 cable. And basically, to make a long story short, what ended up happening is I would always get this answer from the support where it's like, oh, we got to wait for blah, blah, blah. Tomorrow, blah, 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 we'll check this thing out, and then you'll find out what's going on. We got to wait for Susan to come in the morning. She's not here right now. She handles that. We got to wait for the escalation department. Okay, if anybody is out there and you have a problem with HTC support and they use the word escalation, that is a red flag like you would not believe, because basically that's their word to try to calm you down. Oh, we're going to escalate this. And so it eventually started to become obvious to me that nothing was happening here. And the true problem is, there's a lot of problems here, and this is a USA thing. I have to say, this is a USA thing. If you're in other countries, everything might be perfectly fine. But what this is, there's a repair center in Pennsylvania, Meadville, Pennsylvania. And if you have a problem in the USA, if you have a problem with your controller, if you have a problem with the 3-in-1 cable, you're going to probably send it to this Meadville, Pennsylvania repair center. And the chat support is in Singapore. Okay. And so the chat support in Singapore can only communicate with this Meadville, Pennsylvania repair center by email. They can't call them. And so all they can do is like, we'll send an email and find out what's going on. Well, the Meadville repair center isn't looking at these emails, doesn't seem to care. I don't know who's running that center, but whoever is not doing a good job. And so ultimately, this thing just kept dragging out, and it was day after day. It was like day 18 without my HTC Vive, day 19 without my HTC Vive, day 20. And I would get a new promise every day. Like every day it would be like, oh yeah, this is about to happen, or we're definitely going to find out soon, or something like that. So ultimately, I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so at one point, I finally thought that I was going to get somewhere, because I talked to this one lady and she said, yeah, we're going to get you a tracking number. We're going to get it shipped. And so I finally thought, finally, my dream is solved. I'm finally going to get this 3-in-1 cable. And what happened was I was on Reddit and I was reading this guy's post, this other nightmare post about the same kind of scenario. And the guy had been waiting for his 3-in-1 cable since July 10th. July 10th. I haven't been waiting that long, you know? And then also in this little thing that he described, he specifically said, they gave me a tracking number, but it never got shipped. It's all delay tactics. And so I started to like think in my head, oh my God, they're just bullshitting me. You know, this tracking number isn't real. So when I went to bed that night, I was like, you know what, when I get up tomorrow, because I had the day off work, and I was like, when I get up tomorrow, I am going to be absolutely committed to figuring this thing out and to somehow, some way get this situation solved. And so when I woke up in the morning and, you know, my kids went to school, my wife went to work, I had the day off. So I set up a bunch of different computers. Like my wife has a laptop. I got a computer in my like man cave room, in this room here. And then in the other room, we have a computer. And so I got on all three of them simultaneously and got into chat support at the same time. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to become a nuisance to these people. And then they're going to want me to go away. And so I tried that, and it didn't really work very well. They noticed it and they commented on it, but it didn't solve anything. Ultimately, it was a dead end. And so I'm thinking, man, what else can I do? And so what I'm about to tell you right now, the thing is, I kind of don't know if I should say this so much, because I'm worried that if this advice that I'm about to say gets out to the general public, then everybody's going to do this and it's not going to work. You know, it worked in my situation because I just was crazy and I was like, the hell with this, I'm getting this done. But if everybody tries to do this, it's going to be a real nightmare. But oh well, I'm going to go ahead and say what happened. So I'm like, how am I going to get this thing solved? So I Google search HTC America, you know, HTC Corporate, the American office of HTC. And it's in Bellevue, Washington. It's up there by Seattle, near Valve. Maybe that's how they kind of got a connection. And they have a corporate phone number. Okay, but if you call this corporate number, it's an answering machine. And what the answering machine does is it's blah, 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 blah. But then it says, look, if this is related to support, you got to call this number. You know, this is not a support line. We will not answer any support calls. So please don't leave those messages. And so that was the only number that there was. But I started thinking to myself, and I know that where I work, we have one phone number, but then there's a whole bunch of little offices that's in our building, right? And the last two digits are different, but the rest of the number is identical. So I take this corporate number and I'm like, you know what? Let me put 2 zeros at the end of it. Let me try calling that. Tried that, didn't work. Let me put a 2.5 at the end of it. Bingo, bango, man. I got this HTC person, like an actual corporate bigwig, okay? I got their answering machine, and the person was like, you've reached blah, blah, blah. I'm not at my desk right now, but check this out. Call me on my cell phone. You'll be able to get me much faster. My cell phone number is blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, man, this is serious jackpot. So then I take the cell phone number. And you got to understand, I was totally infuriated. That's not a word. I was totally pissed off. Okay. Yeah. I was super pissed off at this point because in my mind, I'm thinking that even though this has been like 20 days or whatever, that I am no sooner to getting this replacement cable anytime in the near future. I mean, it could be, this guy's waiting since July 10th. I could be a guy waiting that long. So I was super frustrated and pissed off. So I figure the only thing I can do is like guerrilla warfare. Okay. I mean, I had to do guerrilla warfare. So when I called this person's cell phone number, I got the message. I mean, I got their message, and I leave a message and I say, here's my deal. I'm having a problem with support. Nobody will help me. I have nowhere to turn. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to call this number every 10 minutes until my problem is solved. I'm serious. That's what I said. And so I hang up the phone, and then a call comes in like 2 minutes. And the person's like, wait, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Here, let me try to help you. Tell me what the problem is. And so I calmly explained the whole entire thing. And this person was super understanding, when they heard the whole problem and how I laid it all out and how I felt like every step of the way I was kind of like being led to just basically delay. No intention of ever doing anything. And so this person was like, this is unacceptable. I'll figure out some way to do it. Give me your address. Give me your phone number. Let me figure this out. Give me 2 hours. Just give me 2 hours and I'll try to figure this out. So a couple of hours later, this other guy calls me back, another corporate guy. And he's like, Anthony, I'm so sorry to hear what has happened to you. Check this out. I am overnighting you a 3-in-1 cable. And also for your trouble, I'm going to email you a code to the new bundle, the new 3 bundle games. And so I'm like, man, whatever you can do, anything you can do is great. Thank you so much. This is incredible. Thanks so much. And so that's how that whole story ended. So the next day I get the 3-in-1 cable. I also got this little t-shirt, but it's super tiny. It's like a little kid shirt. It's a little Vive shirt. It's kind of goofy, but, and they gave me the code and stuff. And the cable I got is the new cable. And so I wasn't able to play the Vive for 23 days. So 23 days, no Vive. And that hurt. Let me tell you, those days, that 23-day period seemed like 2 months, let me tell you.
Yeah, I know we spoke about it briefly on email where you said that you had a bit of a bad time with HTC support, but I didn't realize actually that you'd gone to such extreme lengths to get it rectified. But it seems like that's what you had to do. And there's definitely some kind of a problem with the support with HTC. I mean, there's so many posts on Reddit all the time you come across them. And I don't know what it is, but there's something going on there. And I think a lot of people are saying because they're not a sort of a consumer-facing company, they normally provide all their phones and things to retailers, and they go through that route. So people who bought the HTC Vive directly from HTC might have these kind of problems. But if you can get it from a retail store, then your contract is then with the retail store, so you can then get a replacement through them, and it should work out a little bit easier from as far as I know.
The only thing about that is if you really want one of those ironclad protection type of things with an external store, usually you have to pay an extra amount, which in this case is well worth it. But some places will still make you go through the normal warranty service. And then if that fails, then you come back to them type of thing. So I don't know. But one thing I will say, though, is the guy that I talked to on the phone that seemed to be kind of a relatively up high in the corporate ladder of the American branch, I think he didn't say this outright, but it kind of sounded like they might be using a third-party company to do this repair center. Like that Meadville, Pennsylvania location, it could be a third party that they're outsourcing, and that could be a real big part of the problem. So anyway, my nightmare came to an end, and it's a real relief to finally be back in. 23 days. It was 23 days, but I got used to using the Vive every single day. I got into this habit where I would have like a little 30 minutes in the Vive, then I'm out of the Vive for a few hours, then 30 minutes in the Vive. And since May 2nd, that was my daily routine. And so when it got taken away, basically, sure, it's a defective cable. It didn't get taken away. But when I didn't have the ability to do that again, it was like, oh man, this really hurts. It was a long 23 days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't use my Vive every day, but it's almost every day, I would say, at least maybe for half an hour or to an hour, something like that. But at least you got a few new games out of it then, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I got the bundle that they're giving away now. He sent me a code. So Zombie Training Simulator and The Gallery,
Yeah,
Episode 1, Call of the Starseed. So that was cool because The Gallery is actually, that was a game I was kind of waiting for a Steam sale. Like $20, I would have been, boom, I would have been on it. But to get that as part of it was actually a really nice thing. Absolutely.
yeah. And you were saying as well, they sent you the new 3-in-1 cable as well, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, let me go grab it real quick. Hold on one
Yeah,
sec.
yeah. Because there's rumors that these don't actually exist as well.
Yeah, so this is here's my headset, right?
Okay.
And see how I have the cable kind of coming out of the top of the headset like that? Like I have this loop, this
Yeah.
big loop. See, when I was using my 3-in-1 cable, a lot of times I just had the cable like over my head, coming down, back, and I didn't have that slack up there. And that may have been part of the problem. So people that have had problems with their 3-in-1 cables, I don't know if it's a case where you don't have that slack there. And then so when you're in the heat of battle and like Space Pirate Trainer or something, you're trying to dodge, and you step on your cord and then you kind of yank it a little bit. If you have that slack up there, like if you leave the slack,
Yeah.
then I think it's less tension. But I don't know if that's the real reason why it's dying. And then so the cable itself, like, see, it's just this one wire, and it's just a smooth wire. And it's very similar, actually, to a vacuum cleaner. I have a vacuum cleaner in this room, and here's a vacuum cleaner cord. It's very similar. It's almost like the same type. And the thing about it is, like, when people first started talking about this new 3-in-1 cable, I was like, well, if they make it like a vacuum cleaner cord, vacuum cleaner cords, you don't see them get all tangled up, that because it's a thick cord and it's designed in such a way where it's not easy for it to get tangled up.
Yeah, it looks a lot better from when the pictures of the first ones were posted on Reddit. I think everybody were commenting out how good it looked, but nobody believed that this guy actually got one. But it's good to know that they do exist. It's just that nobody seems to know for sure how to get a hold of one at the moment. But the big problem is the cable is such a bulky cable on the Vive. So if you can get something like that, which, I mean, it still doesn't look thin, but at least as long as it doesn't get tangled up to the same as the older one, then I suppose that's some kind of benefit at least.
Oh, it's way better because let me tell you, that other cable, you know how it kind of has 3 ridges to it? It's like one cable, but it kind of has like 3 ridges. It ends up getting wrapped around and wrapped and wrapped, like you'll be playing Space Pirate Trainer, or I don't know, just there's certain games where you play it and like if my son's been playing for 15 minutes, I know that for me to play, I got to like take the headset off, unwrap the cable. This one, it doesn't really get tangled. The only thing I wish is that it was like maybe 3-4 meters longer, like if it was even extended a little bit, because I do that loop thing, and that takes like 7 or 8 inches or whatever. It makes it a little bit shorter, but I like doing that loop now so that it gives it some slack. So hopefully this thing will survive.
Yeah, I read a post a while ago about doing this loop thing just to give the strap a little bit of slack at the back so you can pull it further down the back of your head so it cups your head a little bit better, and it's supposed to make it more comfortable, and it seems to work anyway. But it's good that you finally got it sorted at least anyway.
Yeah, it was a true nightmare, but I'm back now, so I have a Vive again, and I'm able to use it every day, and it's awesome. So, hey, I know that you got that game Onward, and it's a really popular game on Reddit. I mean, we're kind of late to the party, really, with this news. It's been popular. How long has that game been available?
I'm not too sure because I didn't get it straight away. It was quite a few weeks because people were talking about it pretty much constantly from its release. I know a lot of people were looking forward to it being released after the developer had posted quite a few videos of what it was going to be like on YouTube. So there were people interested in it. And then when it was released, everybody jumped on board. It seemed like that was the only thing that was going on Reddit, on the R5 Reddit forum for about a week or maybe even longer than that. So the problem is with me, I'm not particularly good at first person shooters, and particularly I've never even played like a tactical military shooter or anything like that. I know I think it's Armour and those type of games. So I was sort of a little bit skeptical about whether this game was going to be for me or not. And I decided after reading all these forum posts about how good it was and how immersive, I just thought I'm going to give it a go, because I had a bit of advice from some people I were talking to on the internet who said how good it was. They were saying you could possibly just go for purchase it, and then if you find it's not for you, then go for the Steam refunds, which I know it's not a particularly good way of doing it, but I guess it's better to give the developer a chance of getting a sale rather than no chance at all, because if I didn't have that option, I wouldn't have bought it. But yeah, so I decided to go for it, and I played pretty much 2 hours straight from the moment I first tried it to ending it there. And 2 hours is a long time in VR. And
oh yeah, that's a hell of a long time.
Yeah, but it really flew by, and it is a fantastic game. There's no denying it. I mean, like I say, I was a little bit concerned because I'm not particularly good at shooters, so I thought I'd get killed straight away and I just wouldn't enjoy it. So I mean, one of those came true because I did get killed straight away, of course. But, it's just such an immersive game. It really is. So for those who don't know, like I say, it's a first-person tactical shooter, and it's a 4v4 game. And there's two teams. One of the teams, the Marsocs, I think they're called, they have to get towards some kind of objective on each map, and then activate a code which you get through an iPad, which you actually carry on you. The other team, their whole objective is just to stop this from happening. So you have to just they just defend the objective. And so there's two different play styles on each team. And the thing about this game is you communicate with all your team members as you go through. And again, this is something new for me, really, because I'm not a first person shooter guy and I don't play online multiplayer competitive games generally. But this really helps with the immersion when you're talking to these people. And if you get in there with a good team, which I've been lucky, almost every match I've had, we've all seemed to have communicated really well. And you have all this equipment over you, which you can use your Vive controllers. I say it's intuitive to a certain extent, but it takes a little bit of practice to access all the equipment on you, because all your equipment is placed so close together that you use different methods to grab each item. So, for example, you grab your gun with the grip buttons, and then it will be locked to your controllers. But you've also got a syringe on you, which you access with the trigger, but it's right next to your gun. So you have to do this different method of grabbing things. So it takes a little bit of getting used to know which button you're supposed to do to access the item that you're looking for. So if you're playing with your team and you're in sort of close vicinity to each other, then you can just talk through the HTC Vive mic and they can all hear you fine. As you spread out throughout the map, you have a radio which is on your shoulder, and you just raise the HTC Vive controller to your shoulder, press the trigger, and then you can talk into your radio, and that'll give you access to talk to your whole team no matter where you are on the map. So this really makes for all these little things just really immerse you in the game. I'm never going to be the best player at this game. I'm just not that good at these kind of games, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you're on a good team, you can still get a lot of enjoyment out of this. The only thing, I mean, I would say is I can't really recommend this game enough, other than the fact that it takes time to get into it. You need to give it a chance. I mean, I'd say like I say, I played the first 2 hours in one night, and by the end of that, I felt like I had a more or less a grasp on all the little nuances of the controls and things like that. It does take a bit of work, and all the guns. I mean, I know nothing about guns as well, but all the guns need to be reloaded in a different way, and all these little things that you need to take into account. So, yeah, I mean, I'd definitely recommend it. But there's just a few little caveats that you need to keep your eye on with this, because it's not going to come naturally, and it's not going to come straight away. You do have to give it a bit of time before you're going to get into it. I don't know if you've tried it or if you've been thinking about it at all.
I've heard about it. I'm not like you. I'm also not a multiplayer guy, because like I get in those multiplayer games and then bam, I get shot in the head in like 2 seconds. But there's so many people talking about this game, and then I did watch some videos to kind of prepare for this and kind of have a feel for it, and it looks pretty damn cool. It really does, especially the 4 people, the talking. How many different maps or is it like one map, a couple of different maps? Do you know?
Yeah, well, there's when I play, because I've not played for a few days, actually. I've just been busy over the past few days, but they've recently released another map, which is a subway system. So I want to go into that and give that a try. But I think there's 2 other maps which can be played either during the day or during the nighttime, which is another thing. When you're going into some of these maps, you have to prepare a little bit for the type of map that you're going into. So if you're going into a nighttime map, you need to select the night vision goggles as part of your equipment. Otherwise, you're going to have a big problem. You really are. And again, things like that, the night vision goggles are activated through just raising the controller to your head and clicking the trigger, and then the night vision will come on. But yeah, so I think there's 3 maps now altogether. But the good thing about this game is the developer is giving constant updates. I mean, it seems like there's a new update for this game every few days, really, and he's addressing issues, because there were some performance issues at the beginning, which seem to be that it still doesn't run perfectly, but it's getting there and it's much better. And even when it was running poorly, I actually didn't particularly mind for some reason. I mean, it really bothers me in most games, but in this, you're just so into it that if you get the odd little bit of stutter, it really didn't affect the gameplay for me in any real way. But if that does bother you, then you just need to know that the developer is putting a lot of work into rectifying all these small problems.
One of the complaints I have heard, like reading about this in a couple of different places, is that there can be a lot of waiting, like waiting for the game to start, or like you're waiting. Like one guy was saying, I played this for 6 hours, but I was only actually in the game for like 1 hour or something like that. I mean, what would you say to that complaint?
There can be, yeah. If you get knocked out, because once you get killed, that's it, you're out of that round then. And the rounds last for 11 minutes, I think it's something like that. It might have changed that recently, actually. It might be 9 minutes now. But so if you get knocked out at the beginning, you have the potential to be waiting around in this lobby for another 8 minutes or so. But the thing is, you can obviously choose another server, because there's so many people playing this game at the moment that you can generally jump into a match without any problems. But it is a bit of an annoyance that you will be waiting around in the lobby. But then again, it's not very often. It's not very often that you see a match last the full length of time. A lot of the times it'll end within sort of 3 or 4 minutes, depending on who you're playing against. And also, when you go back into the lobby, other players that have died will be in there, so you can start chatting to them. You can also view the screens. It's not ideal. And also, I think he's adding a respawn play mode as well. So if you get shot, you can just jump straight back in, which, again, these are all little things that will come with time as all the problems get ironed out, I guess. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game's not perfect, and it needs a lot of work, but it's just so much fun at this early stage, which is something I just wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I bet you if I had that game, I bet you one of my sons would be super into it, because one of my boys loves VR, plays it quite a bit, and he actually plays like Call of Duty, those type of games.
Yeah.
And he would, that's the thing. I mean, that's where this game is so huge, is because it's like, well, can you do, I know this isn't a Call of Duty game. I know it's not even really a Battlefield game because it's more strategic. It's more slower, I'm guessing, and all
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
it's kind of similar vein, and so it shows that this could be done. You know.
Yeah, this is the thing, because when you look at the graphics on a screen, they look like something from maybe sort of 10 to 15 years ago. They're not particularly good graphics on a screen, but when you're in there, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference, but it does make you think about what the future brings if you get some of these big developers, the big AAA developers doing something like this. A lot of them will shy away with this artificial locomotion because you walk around using the trackpad, which can make some people motion sick. So they've done it this way, and it works. It works better than you'd think it would, in all honesty. The only thing is one negative. I did say it's a little bit awkward with the picking off the certain, getting to know the controls properly, and it is a little bit awkward sometimes. So I just want to make you aware of that as well. It's not without problems, this game, that's for sure, but it's I think the enjoyment that you can get out of it outweigh the problems tenfold, really.
Yeah. It looks like a cool game. For me, I heard the developer was saying something like there may be a demo at some point, like a really short demo, just to
That
kind of give you a taste of it. So if that happens, I'll definitely check it out, or maybe on a sale or something. It's just I'm not really the multiplayer guy, but it does look cool. And I do remember back to like my very first multiplayer experiences way back on the original Xbox, when Xbox Live first began, like that very first year that it happened. Ghost Recon, there was a Ghost Recon on the Xbox that was like super cool.
yeah.
And it was super early days from a standpoint of like nobody really knew what they were doing, and everybody was having fun, and it just kind of had that vibe. And I kind of get a similar feel when I watch the Onward videos, the camaraderie, with your teammates and stuff,
That's
everybody
it.
having fun.
If you get a good team, which, like I say, I have been lucky. I've not really had a team that's been bad. This is really what makes the game stand out for me. If you got some good people there that you're talking to and you're just having fun with them, because you can go through during the lobby, you can have a chat with them, and if everybody agrees that they want a pistols only match or a knives only match or something like that, then you can go in there and just make up your own rules, because all these game modes are not in the game at the moment. I mean, I'm sure they'll be added. But yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it. I'd definitely recommend people giving it a go, especially, I mean, if there's a free demo, I think that's a fantastic idea from the developer, because I can't see it really failing. If more people can try it, I think they will jump into it.
Alrighty. So another topic I wanted to get into at some point was, I don't know if you've tried the Gnomes and Goblin preview, the Jon Favreau VR movie kind of experiment thing.
Yeah.
So when my Vive was, missing in action, I heard about this, people were talking about it, people were excited about it, and then it came out. I had to wait a little while, and then I finally got my cable and I tried it out. And at first, I wasn't totally blown away by this thing, but a lot of people like would go on and on about how amazing it was. But my very first experience when I was playing it was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I wasn't super blown away by it. What I realized later is that I didn't do everything that you could do. And so I didn't go through the demo in the right way, I guess. And so I missed a lot of stuff. But what was your experience like when you tried this out?
Yeah, I was probably one of the ones raving about this, to be honest, because I think it's it's such a short demo. There's not a great deal to it, but it's just the level of detail in this world that you've got, really, that impressed me. The graphics. I mean, I think it's made by the same people that did the Blue experience as well. So I think I heard that anyway. But so it's got that similar kind of vibe, really. But yeah, I was really impressed with it, and I think there's some more sections to be added to it as well at some point.
Yeah, I mean, once we decided that we were going to talk about this, I got to try this again. Let me try this a couple more times, before we do this episode, so I kind of get a feel for it again. I tried it again, and I do see now what like everybody was really into, because when you actually go through the experience, you get to a certain point, you know, where you ring the bell, you know, the part where you ring the bell, and it puts you in all these different perspectives. And like the first time I did it, I don't know if I rang the bell too much and it just skipped the whole thing and I didn't get any of that. But like when you're up way up there on the tree, and then when you're in that little underground cave with the two little guys, and when you're just, you know, one thing that is really cool about Gnomes and Goblins is you can just sit down, like just sit down on the ground. You're like in the grass, you know, and the acorns, and you're picking up the acorns, and the little guys come out and you give them the little acorn and they pick it up and they take it back.
Yeah.
So the more I tried this a couple more times, and I was like, this is actually way better than I first thought. And one other thing I want to say about it is when you're playing it, your controllers are kind of invisible, but you kind of see them. And one cool thing that you can do, I don't know if you tried this when you tried it, is you can take your controller, and if you kind of wave it by the trees, the bushes will move just a little bit. It's not like a one-to-one thing, but there is a reaction. And then even the those bridges.
The bridges, I tried those.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's the thing about it. I mean, actually, the one thing to say about this is it's not perfect at the moment, because I had a few crashes from it as well. The first couple of times I tried it, it crashed in different areas during the demo. I don't know if you've had any crashes at all.
No, I think it worked okay for all the times I did it.
Yeah, I think some people have experienced a few problems, but either way, the thing that gets me excited about this one is the fact that the level of detail in all these little peering into all the rooms in the trees and things like that, it just makes you think about what the future could bring to some of these. If you was to like expand this small section that you've got and fill out a full village or something like that, some kind of open world. I mean, imagine a Witcher type of game in VR with this level of detail all around you that you can go and explore. This is really what I was thinking about when I was playing this game. It just goes to prove how good VR can be given enough time.
Well, what I like about it is they put you in this specific little area, and the way they arrange everything around you, you just naturally kind of want to stay in this spot, you know, and explore the little things that you can do. You know, you can go over to that one tree and there's a little door, and you can close the door, you know, you could open the door and close the door. And then later when you do get, you know, down to their size and everything, and then you're swapping around to different spots, you can get up there by that door, and it's, you know, it's human size now, and you can open it. You can actually go inside there. I don't know if you tried that, but it's one of the recommendations that it has. Like when you first start it up, if you click on, if you take that little candle, there's like about, credits, and then like Gnomes and Goblins. When I did the about one, it did say that it recommended you have a 9-foot by 7-foot area to fully be able to enjoy it. So, so it might be a little bit better the bigger, you know, well, of course the blue is better too. You get to walk around a little bit more, stuff like that. But yeah, the environment, I mean, looking all around it, the only negative I'll say is like the resolution of the Vive headset. What I've noticed is some games, I don't know if it's like the color palette or the way it's simple or whatever. Some games can really get away with the resolution where it still looks really good. And then other games, it really does look like the resolution kind of holds it back. And I did kind of feel with the Gnomes and Goblins that, you know, I noticed the screen door, I noticed the resolution, and I don't know if it's because of like they have kind of a mist in the air. And you know what I did love though is the little what do you call it? Those little things flying around that are glowing.
The firefly type things. Yeah. It's I know what you mean though about the resolution on certain things, because there's stuff like on the in the lab, for example. It's, I mean, with the lab, it all comes down to this super sampling thing that everybody's been talking about, because the lab has a thing where it can change the level of super sampling dynamically depending on the load on the GPU and the CPU. So it gets a very clear picture through the lab. But what I find, I don't know if you find this, but generally in VR, anything that's been developed in Unreal, for some reason, the resolution or something about it just doesn't seem quite as clear as some other things developed in Unity. And I don't know why that is, but...
Yeah, I agree. What I've seen, and also it seems like the Unreal Engine ones require more horsepower too. Like if you have a really beefy PC, the experience is a little bit better on the Unreal ones. But yeah, it is what it is. Now, one thing you wanted to talk about was alien isolation in VR. There's kind of a petition that's going on. What's your take on the whole alien isolation thing?
Well, yeah, there's not too much to say about this one, but it did pop out at me on the on Reddit, because it's something. When I first tried the latest iteration of VR, sort of the DK2s and things like that, I went into a shop over here probably about a year and a half ago, something like that. It's a computer shop, and they had a DK2 on demo, and they actually had Alien Isolation running on that. So that was really my first time trying modern day VR. Apart from Google Cardboard. But so yeah, it was good. I only literally had sort of 5 minutes on it really, but it really impressed me. And so on a post on Reddit last week, they were talking about a interview that I've got it here actually, a quote from him. It was Sega's European boss, Jürgen Post. And during an interview, he said something, here we are, it's VR has caught the whole company's attention. We have a lot of VR kits in the office and people are playing with it. We are exploring ways to release games. We've not announced anything, but we are very close to making an announcement. So, that first little quote there, it sort of makes you take a little bit of notice, because anything to do with VR from a big developer like that, it's always interesting. But then he went on to say, we did Alien Isolation about 3 years ago on Oculus Rift. It was a demo that was bloody scary. To bring that back to VR would be a dream, and dreams can come true. VR will take time, but we will start releasing some titles just to learn. It is a platform for the future. So that, reading between the lines there, it sort of gives the impression that they might be doing a new VR version of Alien Isolation in order to learn the ropes of virtual reality before they sort of dive in with a new game. At least that's the kind of impression that I get anyway. So yeah, I just want to, it's just holding out some kind of hope that there might be a version of that coming out soon.
Yeah, I remember before I ever got my Vive and I heard about Alien Isolation VR, and I thought about being in a ton, you know how when you're crawling through those little crevices, have you ever played, did you ever play Unseen Diplomacy on the Vive, where you crawl through these little tiny...
I didn't know, only because it requires a big room, and so I've never bothered with it, to be honest. But yeah, it's one that I have seen and I would like to try.
Okay, well, there's certain points where you actually have to get down on the floor, and you're actually physically crawling through these little crevices. And I remember looking through there and thinking, oh my God, what if you looked back and there's a freaking xenomorph and you got a flamethrower? I mean, but I was actually, before I ever got my Vive, I had a legitimate worry that some stuff could be too scary, almost like no, this is too scary. I mean, I play Brookhaven, and there's times when I'm in the storm drain level and I'm like on wave 5 and those giant bugs are coming at me, and I'm like, okay, this is starting to really freak me out. And so Alien Isolation, you get down those dark hallways and the sound, the sound would be wow.
Yeah, it's there are certain experiences, because I've downloaded a new one. I've not tried it yet. It's called The Bellows, but I know everybody's saying that experience, because it's a free download, and that's supposed to be really scary. So I do play these sort of horror VR games, but I've not spent a lot of time in them, to be honest. It's something they're interesting. I do enjoy them, but it's yeah, I don't want to spend too much time in places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I know one major topic we want to get into here before we end this episode, of course, is You recently had an opportunity to go to a trade show there in the UK. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called EGX. It's one of the, well, it's supposed to be, I think it is the biggest gaming convention in the UK, and it's the usual type of thing, really. You can play upcoming games that have not been released yet, but they had a fair bit of VR on there, and I didn't have an appointment booked for PlayStation VR because I just couldn't get in. All the slots had been taken, so I thought I'd turn up on the day. We went straight over to the PSVR booth because I really want to try this because I've just heard so many good things about it. We went there, and the girl who was manning the booth, she said, we're all fully booked up today, but if you come back at 1 o'clock, we've got a small number of spaces that we'll be giving out to a certain number of people. So we went back at 1 o'clock, turned up. There was a big crowd of people, and I tell you, it was absolutely crazy because all these people were blocking entrance to people that already had slots on. All the staff were trying desperately to get them out of the way just so all these other people could get in. Everybody was going mad over PlayStation VR here. And
wow.
We asked, where's the queue to get a slot for this afternoon? And the guy said, we're not telling you where the queue is. This is really odd. It was really odd. The guy said, we're not telling you where the queue is, but when it comes to 1 o'clock, we'll let everybody know, and it's the first 40 people that get to the.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you can imagine how this went. It went far worse than you can imagine. So
wow.
he said, he came out and said, the queue is happening over there, and he pointed about 20 feet away from where he was standing to where one of the other members of staff was standing. Everybody went crazy. They all went over there. I think me and my nephew, who I went with, we were probably in the first 40 people, but it was absolute mayhem. People were climbing over. It was chaos. I mean, there was probably about at least 100 people there trying to get into the front of the queue. The staff were trying to get them into single file. That was never going to happen. So in the end, me and my nephew, we just said, let's just leave it. And we got out. We managed to get out in the end, but it wasn't easy. So I thought, I'm not going to get to demo PlayStation VR. So anyway, we left that, and I don't know what happened because I just wanted to get away from there, to be honest. But walking around this show, I mean, it's a huge event, and there's a lot of indie developers there as well. And some of these, they had PlayStation VRs that you could try. So over to one side, there was this chaos going on over at the PlayStation VR booth. And then over at the indie place, there wasn't a lot going on at all. There was a small queue waiting for this PlayStation VR. So we went onto one of these, and I actually got on to try Windlands because they're bringing that out almost. They're aiming for a launch title for PlayStation VR, but they're not too sure if they're going to get it. But anyway, I managed to get on a demo of Windlands on the PlayStation VR, and yeah, it was really impressive. I've got to say, the quality of the headset and the display, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much on a par with, if not slightly clearer than the HTC Vive, in all honesty.
Wow.
I think everything that they've done with that headset is just so comfortable. It's the screen is so clear. The field of view is, I mean, horizontally, I'd say it's almost identical to the Vive. Vertically, maybe a little bit smaller. But there was something else that I was going to mention there, actually, just on that point, because I don't know if you saw a post on Reddit where there was a guy talking about he tried Farpoint at EGX, the same event that I went to, which is a PSVR title. And he was saying that was the first thing he tried. And the field of view in that game is actually much lower than when he tried Windlands. Now, it seemed to him that they were artificially limiting the field of view in that particular game, presumably to combat motion sickness because it uses artificial locomotion. But it seems it's just an odd thing, which I hope they've got some kind of an option where you can have the maximum field of view if need be.
Yeah, I mean, one of the I've heard about this as well, and one of the downsides of trying to take something super mainstream is you really try to cater, to the kind of the least common denominator, and so hopefully there will be the options there. One guy was saying that maybe on Farpoint, it also could be a a resolution thing too, where if you condense it and it's a smaller area that you're covering with pixels, it
Yeah.
gives you a little bit more power, kind of like back in the old days when we'd have slightly letterbox games so they could get a little bit better frame rate, stuff like that. But what was your feeling on Winlands? Because don't you have the regular Winlands, or have you tried the Vive Winlands? Like, what did it look like? Like you saw the same game? I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, it looks almost identical to the Vive. I mean, you're going through. One thing about this demo was they're not supporting the Move controllers in Winlands. I actually had to play it using the standard PS4 controller. And I was asking the developer as we were queuing up, because the indie booth, obviously, you've got all the developers there as well that you can actually talk to. So I was talking to the developer and asking him about PlayStation Move. Why didn't you go for this? And they were saying that the hardware of the PlayStation Move is just not really up to the task in the same way that the Vive controllers are. And this is something that a lot of people are a little concerned about. Now, with him, he wasn't talking so much about the tracking of the Move controllers. He was talking more about the hardware buttons on the Move controller themselves. Apparently, they've not got any analog sticks on them or anything like that they could use to do this locomotion in Winlands. So he was just pointing out that because of that, they decided just to keep it to gamepad. And I've got to say, actually, it works really well, better than I was expecting on gamepad. But yeah, with PlayStation VR, although I said that the headset itself seems almost on a par with the Vive, I mean, I think I'll stand by that. I was really impressed with it. The problem might come with these other parts, the PlayStation Move controllers, 360 movement, because you've got the problem of occlusion from the camera as well, which is going to be a problem. So overall, I'm not too sure if the PSVR is going to really compare against owning a Vive. But in terms of the headset itself and the quality of the screen and the quality of the display, I think it's right up there. I really do.
And this was all running on a standard PS4, right?
That's right. Yeah, we asked them that. They said they've just got those standard PS4s. And the other thing, which surprised me, with Winlands, the developer actually said that he's able to, using the PS4, the standard PS4, they're able to actually super sample Winlands to a level of 1.4. And that might be why it looks so clear to me, because it was absolutely crystal clear in that display. So that it might be something to do with that. Winlands is not a particularly graphically intensive game. So it might be the other games that we try that are a little bit more intensive, that it could be a problem.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I remember before we really knew what the PS4, what PSVR was really going to bring to the table, a lot of people were thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be VR, but it's going to look like PlayStation 2 graphics, kind of like how you were saying Onward is kind of like PlayStation 2 quality graphics or something like that. Like that's kind of what everybody thought. The VR will work, but it's going to be really low polygon. It's going to be, kind of almost like we're going back in time, but we're in a PlayStation 2 game. But the way you talk about Winlands, I wonder if the developers, because they have textures that they use for the bushes and textures for the ground and textures for this. And so they probably have figured out some creative ways to cut down on things and like lower resolution here, lower resolution there, where when you're going through the game, you're not going to notice it really. So that's really encouraging to think that even on a regular PS4, the game could look that similar. Because what I was thinking personally is that if I got to try like Brookhaven and Winlands and all these different job simulator, all these ones that are coming to PSVR, I was really interested in trying them just from a comparison standpoint to see, are the graphics really that step down? And maybe they won't be that bad of a step down, but we got to see other game engines like Brookhaven and Job Simulator. And because like Job Simulator uses a lot of your CPU. So we have to see how that works with PSVR.
Yeah, I mean, it might be this particular game. It just seemed to work really well on the PSVR. I guess time will tell with these other games, because you've got big games like Robinson the Journey that seems to have fantastic graphics. I did see somebody playing that, and on the TV it just looks absolutely amazing, but what it looks like in the headset is might be a different story anyway. So we'll have to see how it goes really. But overall, I've got to say I was really impressed with it, and it's good. I'm glad it's such an impressive piece of tech, because a lot of people are going to be buying these, and it's going to be a lot of people's first foray into VR.
Yeah, you know, when you were at EGX, did you happen to see? I heard there was a demo somewhere, maybe just you could walk by and see it, where it was the PlayStation 4 Pro and it was running Horizon Zero Dawn on like HDR and blah blah blah. Did you happen to walk by that at all, or?
Yeah, we did see that. It was being displayed on a huge TV, probably about 80 inches, something like that. I mean, it looked good. It looked good. There's no doubt about that. The thing is, without having a direct comparison next to it with what the standard version would look like without HDR, it's difficult to really say. I mean, just looking at the TV, it looked fantastic. It looked as good as any game I've seen played on a high-end PC or even a PS4 or whatever. It looked as good as the best looking game I've ever seen. But what the difference was with HDR, it's difficult to say without a direct comparison, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it'll be cool to actually see what that looks like in real life, and to, because I heard, you know, Forza Horizon 3 for the Xbox, it also uses HDR, and people can play that right now with HDR. And what I've heard is it's kind of like a dud. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, I'm not sure I even notice a difference, or, you know, but it could all depend on the game or whatever. I was just curious if you happen to see it in person. So speaking of PSVR, one topic I did want to hit before we get out of here is there, I know that you're not buying a PSVR right away, but is there one specific game for PSVR that makes you tempted to maybe go down that road? Or what is the one game, if there is one, that makes you interested in PSVR and wish, you know, you could get one of those?
Yeah, there's a few that I was thinking about with this, and I'm not too sure really, because the one that seems to have me most intrigued at the moment after seeing it at EGX is Robinson the Journey. Just watching somebody play that, it looks so, I mean, the graphics, I know people say that graphics are not everything, but they can certainly help with immersion in VR. And that game just looks fantastic on the screen. As I said before, I'm not too sure how good it looks in the headset, but the idea of that game just looks interesting to me. And when I was watching somebody play it, it looks, I think it's just the immersion it seems to have. That's just one game that was really interesting. The other thing, you said pick one, but I've just got one other I just want to mention quickly. Resident Evil 7 on the PlayStation is going to be an interesting title as well. Now it's joypad, so it's not using any boom scale or anything like that. It's not using the PlayStation Move controllers, so I'm not too sure how it's going to run. But again, just having these full games is something that intrigues me more than, maybe it's just because I'm coming from the Vive, and it's more the fact that with the Vive you get a lot of short demos, short experiences. So to have that option on the PlayStation of these longer games, these full games that have been made for VR, like Robinson the Journey, and to a lesser extent Resident Evil 7, then they're really the ones that have me most intrigued. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, for me personally, it's not really one specific game that really has me jazzed for PSVR. Although I will say that Farpoint, of all their games, I think Farpoint is the one that intrigues me, because it seems kind of like Sony, like this is their flagship, you know, this is their big one.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's going to be available this year though. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant on that one.
Yeah, I'm not too sure when that one's coming out, but because you've got the peripheral separate gun for that game as well, and the people were using that at EGX actually, and it did look pretty good, and it looks similar to how if you had some kind of peripheral with Onward, how that would play. in terms of the locomotion. And I mean, the game, it's more of an action game, I think, Farpoint is, but it seems to work in a similar way along those lines.
Yeah, I've heard that with that actual gun controller, I've heard it's really immersive because where you hold the controller, they can kind of map exactly where your hands are. And I don't know if they do like the forearm thing and stuff like that too or whatever, but and then I think there's some rumble and stuff that's built into the controller, so it kind of gives you a little kick.
Yeah.
I know that the price went up for Farpoint with the controllers like $80, and which, you know, is a little bit pricey, but you do get the controller. Of course, the hope is that there will be more than just one game that works with it, but you have a habit of when these things come out, it's like, yeah, there's going to be tons of games that work with it, and then ultimately there's like 2 games that work with it. But I probably will buy it with the controller to be able to get the full, you know, the full whatever.
Yeah, it's one that I'd definitely like to try as well. Yeah, it's there's so many that I'd like to try, but yeah, that's definitely on the list. But yeah, we've been going for probably about an hour now, have we? Something like that.
Yeah, we can go ahead and wrap it up here. So thanks a lot for joining us, everybody out there. Gary, appreciate the discussion. Sorry, I had a few barking dogs in the background. I don't know if you heard that at all, but
I did. I missed those now.
Okay, it's hot here in Sacramento. 98 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that translates over there, in late September.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been hot over here. Luckily, it's cooling down a little bit over here. So yeah, it's good because you can finally get to use the Vive again.
Yeah, I can't wait for when it's like actually legitimately cold. So it's like I don't have to have any fan on or anything. You know, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been good talking to you. And I guess we'll have another episode up soon anyway. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching.
All right, take it easy.
Cheers. Bye.